Samuel, welcome back. Good to see you. Just how fragile would you say this ceasefire is, and how hard are the parties fighting for peace?
Well, I think that the ceasefire is certainly very fragile because any delay in the release of hostages was almost certain to yield an Israeli response, and most likely a military response. And there's been a number of things that have led to this situation. One of them is the maltreatment of the Israeli hostages who were released. Their emaciation really gained a lot of headlines inside Israel. The death of Shlomo Mansour, an 86-year-old hostage whose body was kept in Hamas's custody, was a big blow because he was on the list of one of the people who was supposed to be released. And Benjamin Netanyahu's comments about the displacement of Palestinians has really enraged Hamas. Qatar has been trying to work as hard as they can in terms of inviting an Israeli delegation to Doha. Egypt has held an emergency summit about the displacement of Palestinians, but it doesn't seem as if these regional mediators are doing enough or can do enough to bridge the gap between Israel and Hamas at this time.
What does President Trump's latest ultimatum say about the future of U.S. Middle East policy?
Well, I mean, Trump's whole approach to the current potential breakdown of the ceasefire has been pretty classic, right? He's threatened apocalyptic consequences, much like the way he did against North Korea and against Iran in the past, against Hamas if they don't release the hostages. And also he seems to be showing a disregard for Palestinian sovereignty and self-determination by entertaining the Gaza Riviera plan, by calling for Jordan and Egypt to accept as many Palestinians as possible. And that pretty much aligns with the attitude that he's had towards Israeli expansionism on other issues like the Golan Heights.
Given that analysis of the U.S. Efforts, what's the role of the regional and other global actors when it comes to the remaining hostages, the downscaling of hostilities and the region's future?
Well, I mean, I think obviously Israel is going to be taking cues from the views of the administration in the United States. It appeared as if in the lead-up to the ceasefire agreement that both the outgoing Biden administration and the incoming Trump administration were on board with a need to end the war, to end the violence, to end hostilities in both Gaza and in Lebanon. And it was Steve Witkoff's meeting with Netanyahu that probably convinced him to accept a deal that he had rejected when Biden offered it in May. But now if the U.S. is going to be more permissive towards Israel carrying out military strikes, and then I think that the Israelis will pursue that, and especially if the Qataris and the Egyptians cannot manage to get Hamas to release the remaining hostages on Saturday.
Obviously, we've heard that one vision of the future of part of this region is a Riviera. What about the indications of who else might rebuild Gaza and how difficult that journey will be and how it'll look like?
Well, I think the rebuilding of Gaza is going to be something that's very complicated. I mean, obviously, many Arab countries will be expected to invest. The Qataris invested quite heavily in the rebuilding of Gaza in the past, particularly after the war in 2014. But a lot of that aid, through UN-approved mechanisms, entered the hands of Hamas. So now it'll be incumbent on the Saudis and the Qataris and other Gulf countries with the capital to be able to bring it in. But obviously, there's so much to rebuild. The costs are staggering, given the level of destruction. And it's really unclear what Gaza's post-war environment is going to look like. Will Hamas be completely defeated? Will Israel occupy it completely? Will the Palestinian Authority take Hamas's place? Unless those questions are answered, I think it's very hard to get a viable reconstruction process going in the Gaza Strip.